You know, absolutely. I think I've spoken this story before, but this is a bit of a bit of a wild one, I can't lie. So I saw on Instagram a random ad, completely random ad, just some drill song by an artist called Coadetti. And as you do as a producer, you see an artist posting a song and instantly you're on that. You're DMing that artist like, yo, what's up? I'm this person. Let's get to work, yada, 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 yada. And essentially, I got aired for, I reckon, about 6 months by Coadetti. And obviously, me and him were super close now. But at the time, it was like, it was a bit of a, oh, whatever, this artist just doesn't want to work. You know, you get rejected all the time as a producer. It's just normal. Um, but yeah, randomly, 6 months after I send this initial message trying to work, he was like, "Oh, yo, what's up, bro? My studio's looking for engineers. Hit up my boss." He just dropped the phone number in my DMs. I'm like, fucking steady on, all right. Like, but right after that, oops, sorry, bro. Right after that, I gave this number a call. It was a guy called Ace. So he's the owner of the studio itself, and at the time he had a record label, which is less of a thing now. It's more just a studio. But he had a record label, and Coadetti, that artist that I DM'd, was signed to that record label. And their old engineer, he hadn't had a falling out or anything, but they just had some professional disagreements, and he decided he didn't really want to work at that studio anymore, just to deal with other things in his life, which is, unrelated. But they were out an engineer, they didn't have an engineer. So they were looking for someone pretty desperately because, like I said, music industry is not massive in Adelaide. So there's not really a surplus of engineers where you can just chuck an ad on LinkedIn or put a post in the news and say, yo, we're looking for employment here. There's not a lot of people that are going to come ringing your phones. You know what I mean? So yeah, I went in to the studio. I met Ace, obviously after giving him a phone call. We just spoke back and forth a little bit. There was a few trial sessions I did, just running sessions with just the boys. That I signed to the label, meeting everyone, making sure I'm comfortable, and that kind of thing, making sure I'm capable as well, which obviously I ended up being, hence why they hired me. But yeah, it was a really weird story from going from this ghosted DM to then this employment that I still have 2.5, almost 3 years later. And now I'm working, 3 days a week at the studio doing 10-hour sessions or 10 hours of sessions on all three of those days. And, that's a nice little, consistent income for me. A lot more predictable as well than obviously just production stuff. But yeah, no, definitely a more sporadic and a bit of a random way to get a job for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's how like a lot of people are going to interpret it as like randomness. But I think it worked out for a reason, and I say that because before you hit him up, you probably didn't have as nearly as many placements, and then when he
Mm,
did hit you up, you probably had much more placements, and maybe he heard you, I don't know, some way, somehow, maybe he heard his music that you produced or you engineered, or the timing was just great. Either way, you co-DM'd him, and if you never did that, and if he never left you on red, who knows? He probably would have
mm.
never known who you are. So like it is
Yeah,
sporadic,
100%.
but I think ironically, if he did get back to you at the time you DM'd him, maybe you just weren't ready for that moment. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
then
no, 100%.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, things work out in that way. And I hope like people get that from that story. Like DM them even if you think they're not gonna like get back to you. It doesn't matter how big they are, how small you are. Doesn't You just never know, especially in the future.